Home buying process, step 7, writing an offer. When it comes to writing the actual offer, we will discuss all of the terms that you want to include in the offer. Then I will film a personalized video that looks like this with my face in a bubble on the screen, and I'll explain every detail of that offer so you know exactly what you're signing. In this video, I'm just going to go over the major points of each offer. We'll start with paragraph 2D, exclusions. There's a rule in real estate that if something is attached to a house, then it's included in the sale of the house unless it's listed here as an exclusion. So what I do is I check the MLS to see if they've listed any exclusions, and then I'll let you know. Hey, they've listed chandelier in the dining room as an exclusion, and so we'll put that here, and we'll know that doesn't come with the house. Paragraph 3, offer price and down payment. Let's say you're putting 20% down on a $500,000 house. That would look like this, and we'll get a pre-approval letter from the lender for that offer price and down payment amount. Paragraph 5, we'll need to decide on an earnest money amount. We'll also discuss how much the option fee will be and how long the option period will be. More on all of that later in this video. Paragraph 6A, who is paying for title? The title policy ensures that the property can make a clean transfer from one owner to another, and there's not some long-lost uncle from 2002 who claims that it's actually his property. This policy typically costs about 0.6 to 0.7% of the offer price. In a balanced market, the title policy is typically paid for by the seller. In a competitive market, the buyer may offer to pay for the title policy to ensure that their offer is accepted. Also, whoever pays for the title policy typically gets to choose which title company will be used in the transaction. Paragraph 6C, who is paying for the survey? A survey costs between $500 to $900. Right now, $600 is normal for a survey. A lot of times, a good survey already exists for the property, and so nobody will have to pay for this. However, if there is no existing survey, or if anything has been changed to the structure of the property, if a pool or a patio has been added, then we'll need a new survey. Typically, it falls on the seller to provide a good survey to the buyer. This would give the seller 3 days to provide a survey to the buyer. However, you may see this buyer box checked. That doesn't necessarily mean that the buyer is responsible for a new survey. It means that if the seller provides the survey and that survey is not acceptable to the lender or the title company, then the buyer would be responsible for getting a new survey. If this box is checked and this box is checked, then the buyer is responsible for the survey only if the seller provides an existing survey and that survey is not acceptable. If the buyer is going to outright pay for a new survey, then we check this box here and put the amount of days that we have to provide a new survey. That is typically done by the title company. No need for the buyer to do anything. The title company will order the survey and it will just show up as a debit at the closing table. If the seller is going to request that the buyer pay for a new survey, we would only agree to that in exchange for something else. The survey is just like anything else. It's part of the negotiation process. Paragraph 7H, residential service contracts. What that really means is home warranty policy. In a balanced market or a buyer's market, I'll typically put an amount here that will require the sellers to pay for a 1-year home policy for the buyer. But again, this is all part of the negotiation process. If a seller is going to get hung up on a $500 or $750 home warranty policy, then we would negotiate for them to give us something else that we want in exchange for not giving us the home warranty policy. Or you may decide that you don't care about the home warranty policy as much as you care about getting under contract and securing the property. Either way, we'll discuss the home warranty policy as part of negotiations. Paragraph 9, closing date. Typically, the quicker we can close, the more competitive the offer is. In a balanced market, 30 days to close is normal. Anything less than 30 days is going to make the offer competitive. In a less competitive environment, you may choose to do a 45-day or even 60-day close, depending on your situation. Typically, we're looking at about 25 to 30 days for closing on an existing residential property. Paragraph 12, concessions. Remember, concessions means cash provided from the seller to the buyer at closing. Sometimes we'll negotiate for concessions in the initial contract, so right here I'll put $1 million. That would be nice. Concessions can be put into the initial contract. That happens about a quarter of the time for my buyers. It's more common to leave this blank or put 0 here and then negotiate for concessions in an amendment after we've done the inspection during the option period. More on that later in this video. We'll also discuss addendums. These are documents that are added to the contract, such as the third-party financing addendum if you have a lender involved in the transaction, the Property Owners Association addendum, otherwise known as the HOA addendum, the seller's temporary residential lease if we're offering a lease back to the seller, and the list goes on. We'll discuss each addendum as needed.